This story begins with a man who called himself Colonel Beauregard Sholtnick. Although there is no record of evidence that he ever served in any regiment of the armed services or militia, Colonel Sholtnick was the owner and ringmaster of a traveling circus that performed across the heartland of America and into the Deep South territories beginning in the early 1930s. Sholtnick's reputation was one of ill repute in the carnival business, and he was considered a liar, cheat, and all-around charlatan. His crew of carnies and circus clowns were more of a gang of cutthroats and pirates than sideshow entertainers. And every town they visited left behind a series of unsolved thefts, missing persons, and grisly accidental deaths. One thunderously stormy night, while stopped in a small town near Beltsville, Maryland, the circus-bearded lady, a knife-thrower, Madame Bristells, discovered an abandoned infant left in a hay-filled crate outside her tent. The child was severely malformed, with stubs protruding from its forehead and misshapen legs that ended in what looked more like cloven hooves than human feet. She took the poor creature in and gave it food and shelter. One look at the twisted abomination, and Colonel Sholtnick knew that he had struck gold. He had found the starring attraction for his freak show that would make him rich beyond his wildest dreams. He took the child and raised it into captivity, never letting it out of his sight or its cage until it could be fully exploited for its grotesque appearance. The beast grew in size and strength over the years, its stubs becoming full-size horns, and its temperament as nasty as the treatment given to it by the cruel circus carnies charged with keeping it imprisoned. It spent most of its life chained to a wall of a cage inside a circus train, whipped brutally daily to keep it subdued and submissive, and fed only gruel and leftover scraps from the Midway vendors' grease pits. One fateful night during the thunderstorm, as violent as the one on the night of its birth, the circus train was passing through Fisherville on its way to performance in Louisville, Kentucky, when a bolt of lightning struck the tracks, causing the train to derail. Just ahead of the trestle over Popeblick Creek, the twisted wreck probably killed most of Sholtnick's crew instantly, but not all of them. Since body parts were found as far away as 2 miles from the crash site, it's believed that the Goatman survived the tragic train wreck. Finally set free from its life of torture, exploitation, and imprisonment, it took revenge on the survivors by ripping them to bloody shreds. Colonel Sholtnick's body was never found, and it is suspected that a few of his cutthroat crew of clowns, circus freaks, and dangerous animals also may have survived the deadly accident, but were never found. Due to the number of deaths, missing persons, deer and livestock mutilations, and Goatman sightings that have been reported in the ensuing years, there is good reason to believe that the Goatman of Popeblick never left the area. He is believed to have taken up residence in either an underground cave or ramshackle hut, somewhere in the wooded area near the train trestle. His inbred hate of cruel humanity has made him a bloodthirsty and dangerous beast to be avoided at all costs. Those that dare trespass into the Goatman's domain have met their fate at his hands. There are a number of confirmed deaths and many injuries and close calls attributed to the Popeblick monster and his protected trestle. The trestle rises 90 feet above Popeblick Creek and stretches 772 feet across the other side. Although incapable of human speech, the Goatman is said to be able to mimic human voices and has been known to call out the names of those who have climbed to the top of the trestle in order to lure them out onto the tracks, just as an oncoming train is coming around the bend to seal their doom. The Goatman is said to be most active in the woods and hills surrounding the Popeblick trestle. Those who have attempted to drive beneath the trestle at the stroke of midnight have reported being chased by the beast, who can run at speeds of nearly 60 miles per hour, and more than one report has claimed loss of their car door handle or bloody claw prints left on their car door after a pursuit. In the mid-1970s, rumors of a cult of rituals began circulating in the same area along Popeblick Road, and reports of missing dogs, cats, and other domestic animals were suspected of falling prey to blood ceremonies. A mysterious farm known as the Four Winds down the street a few miles from the train trestle was suspected of being owned by a cult who worshipped the Popeblick monster as a living embodiment of Baphomet, the goat of Mendez himself. The Four Winds was surrounded by a red and black painted fence through the 1980s and into the 1990s, with a sign at the front gate warning trespassers will be prosecuted. Strange tribal drum beats and chanting were often heard in the woods behind the farm's barn. It is believed that the Four Winds was made up of local farmers who dabbled in the dark arts. The cult revolved around a family of farmers who shunned outsiders and cast spells to protect their farmland. Legend has it that anyone who wronged the family would be visited by a half-goat, half-human monster named Capra that was summoned to exact savage revenge on the wrongdoer and to protect the family from all other outside evil influences. If you encounter this family of farmers in the area, proceed with caution and respect. One of the most credible theories about origins of the Popelic monster is the story of Charles Chess McCartney, a nomadic traveler and occasional fire and brimstone preacher who traveled up and down the eastern United States from 1930 to 1987. McCartney traveled the back roads of the country in a ramshackle wagon pulled by a team of between 9 and 15 goats, and would cause quite a stir in every town he stopped in and set up camp. People would come from all over town to visit the real Goat Man and his horned entourage. Historical records show McCartney stopped regularly at Popelic near the train trestle and the Four Winds farm over several decades. It is believed that his family lineage may have lived on or in the area. It's also believed that McCartney may have had a relationship with Madame Bristells, a 24-year-old Spanish knife thrower who was credited with the discovery of the Goat Man. In fact, it is thought that Chess participated in Madame Bristells' knife-throwing act. By all accounts, Chess McCartney was a master storyteller and was known to weave quite a tale to curious visitors. One of his most popular local tales involved his secret knowledge of an ancient graveyard hidden somewhere in the woods just beyond the Popelic train trestle. According to McCartney, the ground beneath the cemetery was cursed by some evil power. Any corpse buried in that wretched earth would be resurrected as an obscene creature, neither human nor beast, but a monstrous amalgamation of both. It is now believed that McCartney's story may be the first campfire tale of Capra, otherwise thought to be the Goat Man. There is something mysterious and inviting about the train tracks, the way they stitch across the countryside, sewn into the landscape, the hypnotic repeating patterns of the railroad ties topped with seemingly infinite lengths of rail stretching beyond the furthest reaches of our eyesight. Trains are the tool that tamed the New World. They are the arteries that carry life across the wilderness and into the heart of our cities and towns. We carve tunnels through mountains and build bridges across valleys to create a path for these goods to flow. If one man blazes a trail, a dozen more will happily follow to see where it goes, even if they know it leads directly into the heart of danger. But mystery and folklore often hold a more powerful grasp on our minds than common sense, and no place on the map tells that tale better than a set of train tracks in Popelic Park. Popelic Park is a beautiful little getaway tucked neatly on the eastern outskirts of the Louisville, Kentucky metro area, with miles of walking trails, playgrounds for kids, a river to paddle and fish, and sights to see. This beautiful family-friendly park has plenty of outdoor fun, but on the edge of this tame section of land lies a reminder of more sinister presence. The signs plastered all along the fence warn of danger ahead. People who venture too far down those tracks will often not return, but that doesn't stop them from trying. Just beyond the fence, often bent away by curious onlookers, and just a short hike up the hill, you will come to a bridge. But this bridge is not intended to be crossed by human feet. The Popelic trestle spans a 772-foot gap, rising 90 feet, or about 8 stories into the air. And while it is entirely safe to drive or walk under this trestle bridge to take in the sight, if the stories are true, you might want to do so during the hours of daylight, and under no circumstances should you venture up top, because the monster who calls this bridge home isn't known for leaving survivors. Numerous people have lost their lives on the Popelic trestle. In 1985, John K. List ventured out on a track while shooting crows. A Southern Railroad Company train turned the corner, and despite only being 30 feet from the trestle's entrance, John couldn't outrun the barreling hunk of steel. 19-year-old David Wayne Brandt was out on the tracks in 1986 when he noticed a train coming at him. He leapt from the trestle to dodge the oncoming train and was rushed to receive medical help. But months later, in May of 1987, he passed away due to complications from his injuries. In 1987, 17-year-old Jack Baum II was struck and killed by a train while trying to cross over the trestle. 5 years later, in 92, 19-year-old Grady, a student at Miami University, was visiting the area and ventured out onto the tracks. At around 1:45 a.m., he saw the lights of an approaching train and, in an attempt to escape, hung out over the edge of the tracks by holding on to the edge of the railroad tie. Tragically, he lost his grip and fell to his death 90 feet below. In 1995, James Ratterman, age 35, was using the trestle as a bridge for his ATV, but around halfway across, his ATV flipped, trapping him underneath. Miraculously, he didn't fall off the narrow bridge, however. His fortune would soon turn when an oncoming train sealed his fate. 19-year-old Nicole Jewell leapt to her death to avoid an oncoming train in 2000, and the list goes on and on. And while most of these deaths can be chalked up to people putting themselves in dangerous spots, that doesn't stop the rumors that perhaps they ended up there not out of careless oversight of their own safety, but rather because of the hypnotic call of a creature with a hatred for humans. Whether the Pope-Lick monster is real or not, we can't deny that the monster has claimed very real, precious lives. Take the death of Raquel Bain, age 26, as an example. Bain and her boyfriend, David Nee, made the 3-hour drive from Ohio for a local ghost tour. With time to spare before the tour began, they decided to make a detour to the local haunt of the supposed Pope-Lick monster. Ignoring the warning signs, they snuck out to the entrance to the trestle. David mentioned, quote, "When I saw the bridge, the thing looked so rickety I thought it was out of service or something," end quote. Hearing legends of how to summon the monster, one must cross the trestle on foot. The couple ventured out onto the bridge, but instead of catching a glimpse of the creature, they were met with a terrifying rumble in the tracks, followed by the lights of an oncoming train. David, a 6'1" karate instructor, tossed his body over the edge, holding on to the lip of a railroad tie. But to his horror, when he looked up, he saw Raquel attempting to outrun the oncoming train. Quote, "Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her body go flying," end quote, David recounted. "It's a nightmare, waking up each day and realizing it's not a dream." Fire officials found Raquel's body in a field the following morning, on April 23, 2016. Even more recently, in 2019, 15-year-old Savannah Bright was struck by an oncoming train after attempting to cross the track, supposedly on a dare of bravery, or perhaps to summon the creature. The irony in all of this is that many believe the story of the Pope-Lick monster was created to stop people from doing this very thing. Many longtime locals tell stories about how they were described as kids of the Pope-Lick monster and how it was used as a scare tactic to keep them away from the trestle. But it seems there just isn't a good solution to keeping people away. After all, they can't just block it off. They already put up fences, but people just go around. Warning signs aren't enough. Criminal prosecution hasn't been successful. There was even once a small platform about halfway down the trestle that could be used as an emergency platform. That was removed because at the time, people believed that seeing the landing would encourage people to attempt the journey. But nothing seems to stop people from giving it a go. Even the threat of a dangerous monster only encourages people to attempt this reckless stunt, possibly fueled by Ron Sheldnick's short film titled The Legend of the Pope-Lick Monster, which premiered on December 29, 1988, and then referred back to the specific circus conductor of old. See what I mean? Death by monster or machine? Some speculate there is no keeping people off this bridge. Maybe if they put a walking bridge next to or under it, people would stop using those tracks. Or maybe they should erect a statue of the Pope-Lick monster as a tourist destination, which would help curb the appeal the trestle seems to have. So if you find yourself in Poplick Park, stop by the Poplick Adventure Outpost, grab a selfie with the statue of the Poplick Monster, go drive under the trestle and enjoy a day at Poplick Park. But whatever you do, please stay off the top of those tracks, because whether it's a mimicked cry, a hypnotic stare, or just a case of chronic curiosity, whatever you let lure you out onto those tracks will place you into a far more severe danger than any goat man, one whose clutches are far less forgiving and whose deep growl is more gutturally terrifying. This very real beast that calls the trestle home cannot and will not stop for you, and you will never outrun the thunderous gallop of 20,000 tons of train.